son is bored most days though. He'll often ask her to play with him, giving her a heartbreaking stare when she says she can't. She's not sure with him. She'll explain in her best mum voice that she's got work to do. But he's 3. He doesn't understand that we can't just exist without responsibility, that we've got bills to pay. Recently, my wife tells me he's been talking to an imaginary friend. It's a milestone in his development and warms my heart to see him progressing, despite the lack of attention we're able to give him throughout the week. I asked him about this friend he's got. What's his name? I asked, giving my wife a side-eyed smile as I did. Charlie, he said frankly. Charlie Harrison. Oh yeah, I asked, chuckling a bit. What does Mr. Charlie Harrison look like? I followed up. Well, he's a big, tall man. He's got long fingers and a silly laugh, he replied with a childish grin that would make even those who despise toddlers smile. Acceptable, but somewhat creepy to think about. I always thought imaginary friends were something kids made up to feel comfortable. I imagined they were children, like the child who was making them up, not adult men as he described. It should have been our first red flag. We didn't think much of it that night, however. We just went about our business as usual. I made some dinner, my wife bathed our son and put him to bed. As my wife tried to leave his room after reading him a short story, just as she did nearly every night, he begged her to stay in there with him. "Mummy, no," he said longingly as she attempted to walk out of his room. "I want you to stay." My wife, being the wonderful woman that she is, agreed to stay. She sat in his rocking chair for nearly 30 minutes as he tossed and turned, fighting sleep. When she came out, I couldn't help but ask what happened. "He just begged me to stay," she replied. "He seemed really sad that I was coming, almost scared." That should have been the second red flag. Later that night, my wife and I were dead asleep in our bed when our door blasted open. It was our son, and he was distraught and on the verge of hysterics. This was a new occurrence, as he'd always slept in his bed throughout the night. There was never an instance of him having nightmares or being scared of the dark or anything like that. "What's wrong, baby?" my wife asked, hurriedly sitting up and wrapping him in her warm embrace. "I had a bad dream," he said, trailing off. "The man, he was trying to get me." He began to break down into tears whilst my wife and I exchanged concerned looks. We let him sleep with us that night, cuddling him up and making sure he knew there was nothing that would get him. The next morning came and went as usual. My wife worked, my son played with his imaginary friend, despite the fact that he'd been so scared of him the night before, and I went to the office. After a long day, I had only one thing on my mind: food. I'd been forced to skip lunch due to some meetings running too long and had been starving all day. I shot through the door, ready to make a beeline for the refrigerator, when my front foot slipped out from under me. I went tumbling backwards, sprawling out on the floor. A sharp pain shot through the back of my head. My ears began to ring and I saw double. The light blurred in my vision and gained an intense brightness. "Ah," I grumbled, unable to form a full word. I lay there for a moment, allowing my vision to clear. I shut my eyes. I could hear my wife calling to me. "Honey," she yelled. "What happened?" I opened my eyes. slim-built man with impossibly long fingers and large bony hands stood in the doorway of my son's room. A snickering grin was stretched across his face, revealing sharp, yellow teeth. His eyes seemed to bulge from his misshapen skull. The glowing yellow orbs appeared to be fighting to get away from each other. His hair was dishevelled and greasy, strewn about crazily on his head. I involuntarily let out a loud yelp in fear. My breath sped up, forcing air in and out of my lungs as quickly as possible. I heard my wife scurrying over, but didn't avert my gaze from the terrifying beast-like man. He was stark naked and covered in an inordinate amount of body hair, a scene straight out of a nightmare. As my wife approached, rounding the corner from the living room into the foyer, she rushed to my side. I continued staring at the horrible figure as he retreated slowly and methodically back into my son's room. "Honey, what happened? Are you okay?" she asked in rushed excitement. "Oh my God, your head!" she gasped, holding her hands up over her mouth and looking away in horror. Was it bad? It couldn't have possibly been that serious. Just a little slip and fall. It did hurt like a son of a bitch though. But the real danger lurked in my son's room, in the darkness that was just beyond his door. "It's bleeding," she said, rushing to the bathroom and pulling out a faded old towel from the cabinet below the sink. Glowing yellow eyes flashed in the darkness of my son's bedroom for a moment, before flickering out into the void. My wife rushed back, pressing the towel firmly against the back of my head as she helped me up. We left the house, heading directly for the emergency room. After waiting way too long, we were finally seen. I was given a local anaesthetic so the doctor could stitch up the wound. They performed an X-ray, CT scan and PET scan before providing a diagnosis. "Well, Mr. Harrison," he said, "you've got a severe concussion, minor bleeding, and a minor cranial fracture. You were correct to come in here today." He looked down, scribbling something on his pad when I made the connection. I did a double take, unsure if I'd heard him right, before following up and asking, "Mr. Harrison?" He looked at me quizzically for a moment. Only a moment though. He quickly found his demeanour and bedside manner before replying. "Yes," he said, "Mr. Charlie Harrison. That's your name, correct? Single male, no next of kin. You were admitted here 12 years ago." He put his pen down and looked at me with remorse before saying one last thing. "You killed them, Charlie. After you'd fallen and bumped your head, you just went off. They tried to get you to a hospital, but you refused. Said you didn't need a hospital. You said you needed to kill the man with the yellow eyes." He shook his head, a tremble in his voice. It was as if he didn't want to tell the story anymore. "It was your son, Charlie. The man with the yellow eyes was your son. And once you'd done him in, you turned on your wife." He hung his head for a moment. "God, I hate having to tell you this every day, Charlie. I hate that, despite repeating the words to you every single day, they never get easier to say." He stood up, motioning for me to follow suit. I lifted myself up, off the bed of the strange room around me, and followed him out of a large door and down a hospital-scented hallway. Metal doors with small porthole-style windows lined the area, and large men in teal scrubs stood around, arms crossed and anger present in their eyes. It was as if they were bodyguards, past them. One man laid on his bed, bound by a straitjacket and laughing maniacally. Another woman sat in the corner, slumped on the floor, sobbing hysterically. As we came up to a door that felt familiar, but foreign at the same time, the doctor pulled out some keys and inserted one into a small slot. The door swung open and he motioned for me to enter. "Your head injury," he said as I stepped into the room. "It did some work on your memory, something we won't be able to fix." I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I hope you enjoyed it. The next story is called "I Think There Is Something Wrong with My Son." Me, a 35-year-old female, and my husband, 40 years old, always wanted a child. But because of my fertility issues, we started to think about adopting as an option. I've always wanted to have a family. I grew up in an abusive household with my 3 other siblings. My mother died in childbirth when I was 8. I ran away at 13 after my father set our house on fire. I don't really remember anything else about my childhood. My therapist said it was some sign of a trauma. As I was driving home from work one night, I noticed a little boy standing on the side of the road. I stopped the car and asked him where his mother was. He said he didn't know. I took him to the police station, and they said they found no records of the boy or his family. After talking with a social worker, I adopted the boy. His name was Howard, and he was 5 years old. I know, a weird old name for a little boy. But I was beyond excited to give a home to him, not knowing it would be the worst mistake of my life. Howard was polite and kind. He never acted out or anything. It's like he was a 60-year-old grandfather in the body of a 5-year-old. After a month of him living with us, my husband had a psychotic breakdown and left us. One night he just packed up his things and left. The whole time of him packing, he just yelled at me, "What the fuck are you talking about?" over and over again. I got terrified and didn't even try to call him again. I got the divorce papers in the mail the next week, so now it was just Howard and I. Great. Never seen myself as a single mother. At this point, his politeness had started to creep me out. He was never uncomfortable. He never had a cold. He was okay with everything I asked him to do. I told him not to watch TV. He said, "Okay," and picked up his colouring book. I told him to go to bed, and he never picked a fight. Another weird thing was that he never ate his food. I'm busy and we don't eat together. I just find the full plate at the table every day. I never bothered to ask him about it, and I don't know if I want to. The next day, things got really weird. I was sitting on the couch with him, watching TV. The whole night he just sat there and stared at me. I saw him looking from the corner of my eye. Even when I turned my head to his direction, he didn't flinch or say anything. Over the course of the next month, I noticed him staring at me sometimes. When I did laundry, he was peeking in the crack of the door, just staring at me. I also noticed a change in his look. Small changes. His hair got darker. He suddenly had freckles like I do. He started to look more familiar every day, but I didn't know who he looked like. Then he started saying things out of pocket. I was washing the dishes, and he came up to me and said, "Why did you leave me?" I asked him what he was talking about. "I never left you." He never answered or explained what it meant. He asked that from me probably 5 times every day. I really started to get scared and tried to find I was awake, and he walked up to me and yelled at me, "Why did you leave me?" I quickly got up. I was shaken up and in shock and scared. He just looked at me and went to his room. I didn't sleep all night. The next morning, I tried to talk to him about it, but he didn't answer. He just looked at me. I tried to look for the police report that they wrote about him while they were asking the questions the night that I found him. When I couldn't find it, I started searching every box I had. I came across an old picture book, and I went through it. There were pictures of me and my parents and siblings. I was about to pass out when I noticed it. Oh, fucking hell. There it was. A picture of 10-year-old me with a little boy standing next to me. My baby brother. He had the same brown hair and freckles. He looked exactly like Howard. Just as I looked at the picture closely, I smelled gasoline. I looked behind me and Howard was standing there with a match in his hand and a creepy smile on his face. "Why did you leave me, sister?" Howard said as he dropped the match to the gasoline pool.